Hey everybody, so here's a question for you. Is the gig economy and gig jobs, are they about to go away, or is the economy, the gig economy about to collapse? Here it is 2026, and every time you turn around, all you hear about is AI and automation, autonomous vehicles. And it has me wondering, are all these jobs that over the last, I would say like 15 years, that evolved to be around this so-called gig economy, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, DoorDash, Grubhub, um, Fiverr, all these, hire a software developer on Fiverr and all these things online. All these gig jobs, are they about to just collapse and go away? It's an interesting question. I think they're definitely going to change. There's no doubt about that. They're definitely going to change simply because of AI, of artificial intelligence, especially in I guess the gig world, as far as driving, delivery, stuff like that. It's only going to be a matter of time before you have an autonomous vehicle inside an autonomous vehicle. How hard is it for them to create a vehicle that will pull up to an address, and then boop, a little robot pops out, rolls up to the door, and drops the food? Okay. Now that may not be available at every single location at first, because it's going to have to overcome some problems, stairs and navigation issues and things like that. But one thing that AI does well is recognize patterns, and it will recognize these different patterns and obstacles, and they'll come up with a solution real quick. So, my thoughts and what I think is going to happen is probably within the next 3 years, you'll start seeing robots being delivered by robots to make a delivery. And it really, I think people need to be aware and prepared for what's going to happen with all this automation and everything. Like I said, everything from autonomous vehicles all the way up to software engineering, AI, it's automation. It's going to change the world, and people like me better get used to it. People like you better get used to it, because it's coming, and I don't see anything that's going to stop it. I don't think the government's going to stop it. I don't think they can. Okay, they run the risk, if they were to stop it and start putting in severe restrictions. The problem that you're going to run into is you're going to have other countries that are going to continue to develop this technology. And all of these technologies, they transfer to war. They transfer to the battlefield. So the last thing you want is for our country, the United States, to not go down this artificial intelligence road because of the need to save jobs. Now, maybe there's another way that they can place restrictions or something that will help slow the sudden collapse of the gig world and all that. But think about it. I'm a guy in my 50s, and I'm old school. Look, I loved growing up when I grew up. I loved the 70s, the 80s, the 90s were the heyday of partying. I loved all that, okay? But now we are in a different world, and it's going to be one of those things where you need to jump on the bandwagon, because it's changing, and it's changing fast. So, if you're in your 50s, if you're in your 40s, even into your 60s, you're still working, be prepared. Be prepared. If you're an Uber driver, like I'm a driver, I love driving. And I'll tell you right now, I know that day is coming. I think it's a little bit further away in my area for a couple different reasons, but I know that day is coming. And I think a lot of people really need to stop and think about it. Is AI a good thing? I don't know. Is AI a bad thing? I don't know. It's just a thing. That life is about things, and things change, and it's going to change. And I think everybody needs to be prepared for it. People like my daughter, who was only 8, she's going to grow up with it. It's going to be the norm. Okay. It's going to be no different to her than what a cell phone is to somebody in their 30s or 40s or even 50s. Okay. It's not going to be a big deal to her. AI is just going to be another, I hate to say it, another person. Okay. I think these different AIs are going to develop personalities, for lack of a better term. And I think they're going to be very good at what they do. Okay. Whether that's driving a vehicle, whether that's delivering food, whether it's software engineering, accounting, whatever. Okay. And it's going to eventually affect all jobs. Eventually, you'll even see it. I hear people all the time, they say, oh, AI won't affect my job. I'm a nurse. AI won't affect my job. I'm a plumber. I'm an electrician. Yeah, it will. I mean, AI is going to come for everybody's jobs. And it's going to be one of those things where it's going to win, plain and simple. Okay? It's going to win. Because you can't fight a battle against an enemy that you can't see, and to use an analogy. And you really can't see AI coming. It only takes one guy in his garage to figure out how to do something. And the next thing you know, you've got an autonomous welder that can go into a building, and maybe it can't do everything. Maybe it can't weld every weld that it needs to lay down. But let's say if it can only lay down 50% of the welds, okay? That's 50% of the workforce. That's 50% of the welding workforce. What if you have an AI that does plumbing? It can only do, let's say it can only get into certain areas and it can only do 60% of the plumbing, okay? That's still a lot of people out of jobs. That's 40% of that plumbing workforce that now have to worry, are they going to have a job, okay? So get ready for it. Start planning, start saving money. There ain't no doubt about that. Save money because you're going to need that. And, just in the back of your head, know that this is coming, and it's not going to be stopped by any politician. They don't want it to be stopped. The special interests, they have so much money, and lobbying groups, they're going to be able to, pay off these politicians when they need to. They're going to lobby them, for lack of a better term. They're going to lobby them and say, hey, this is a good thing. It's going to create more jobs. When you and I both know that it's not. I mean, maybe there's something to be said for like a dystopian society where you kind of harken back to the old days and live without electricity and pump your own water from a well. Who knows? I don't know what the answer is, but I thought it would be interesting to just let you know what my thoughts were. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Share it with a friend. Go ahead and follow us. Follow the channel if you want to hear more about this kind of stuff. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Thanks.